All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday. All right. So let's go ahead and get started here. If you got a question, go ahead and post it. It's either going to be to the right-hand side of the video or below the video. If you're on a mobile device, it's probably going to be below the video there. So you just post your question in there, press send, and it will get answered. If you're someone who posted a question more than an hour ago, so looking here, Mike M, Stephen G, Jonathan N. These are questions that came in after the office hours yesterday, but more than an hour ago. If you're on here, go ahead and just repost your question. Just copy and paste it in there, and it will get answered coming up here. So let's go ahead and get started here with Nicholas P. So Nicholas P says, I'm starting to get better and better lag in my swing. How much does it impact ground strike? So it really varies. Basically, if you are releasing the club early, which if you're not getting lag, you're typically going to be releasing the club early, then what happens is that your club comes in very, very level with the turf. So if I'm coming in and I'm releasing this club early, what happens is this club really, really shallows up and is really level with the turf as it's coming through. So if you're someone who casts the club, releases the club early, you're going to have a hard time making solid contact with the golf ball. You're typically going to hit a lot of thin shots, a lot of chunked shots. You may even top a lot of shots if that's the case. So it makes it really, really difficult because you're not really hitting down on the ball. You can't get that ball first contact. Now, if you have a lie where the ball is sitting up nicely on the grass and you can actually kind of hit through the grass a little bit to get to the golf ball, then no issues, really. You'll be able to hit, make solid contact just fine. But if you're on those tightly mown fairways, a lot of nicer courses have those really firm, tightly mown fairways, like basically fairways that maybe some tour players are playing on. But I know a lot of golf courses, that it's kind of more fluffy carpet-like grass where the ball sits up a little bit, and you can get away with it for the most part. But if you're ever in a divot, or you're kind of in a hard pan lie, you don't have a great lie, it's going to be real difficult for you to make solid contact if you're releasing that club early. Whereas if you're getting some lag here and you're able to get this club to where it's releasing more out in front, now you can hit down on the ball a little bit, and that can allow you to get that ball first contact a little bit better and also get that contact higher on the face. Because if you're coming in and you're flipping, right? So you're releasing this club early, you're coming in kind of like this, then this club doesn't have any forward shaft lane. It's like this. Let me grab a golf ball so I can show you. So if I don't have any forward shaft lane and I'm coming into contact, you can see the shaft is straight up and down. You can see the contact point is probably on, I'm looking at it, probably the second or third groove there. Well, now watch. If I lean this shaft forward, this is about how much forward shaft lane a tour player would have. Now you're going to see there's going to be a little bit, it goes up probably to the fourth or fifth groove. So I'm getting that strike going from here up to there, and you're going to hit it a lot more solid, get a lot more compression on the golf ball if you're hitting it more in the center of the club face. So yeah, definitely can make a difference for sure. As far as controlling your ground contact, where you're striking the ground, like it will vary between players. You may want to work on your awareness of that, but yeah, it's definitely going to make it a lot easier to make that ground contact for sure, or to make ball first contact. So Chris B says left hip issues. This seems to go laterally in pros as right hip turns. The downswing and contact position shows the straight right side. But to achieve this, the left hip must trust back. Can you talk through correct level of left hip? Let me read that again. I'm not sure if I got that. Left hip issues. This seems to go laterally in pros at right hip turns. Hey, Chris, if you're on here, would you mind? I don't really understand your question. I want to make sure that I'm answering what you're asking. So if you wouldn't mind kind of rewording that to where it's, complete sentences and makes a little bit more sense. I can't, can you talk us through correct travel of left hip. So let me just talk about left hip, and hopefully I'm hitting what you're talking about. But if I'm not, you may want to rephrase your question. But left hip travel. So I'm assuming that you're right-handed. So basically, the hips are going to be moving, are going to be kind of in a tilt down. So when I'm rotating in the backswing, they're not tilting level. They're tilting down a little bit. There's a little bit of a pelvic tilt forward. And then in the downswing, your left hip's going to go down, and then it's going to go back up as you're coming into contact. So if I'm coming down, my left hip's going to be going down a little bit in the downswing. So I'm going to be going down a little bit, and then it's going to be rotating back and up. And that's coming from your lead leg. So your lead leg is pushing into the ground and pushing that hip back and up out of the way. So if you look at it from this angle, I'm coming in. I'm coming into the downswing here. I'm rotating that hip back and out of the way as I'm coming into contact. So here's my contact point. The hip's being rotated back and up out of the way. And then I release that club out in front. Everything's pointing out in front. And then I'm coming all the way around into my full finish. My hips are pointing toward the target at that point in the swing. So that's basically the left hip movement. It's not, there's nothing that's sneaky or secret about it, really. It's just that your hip's going to be moving down and then backing up as you're coming into contact. What we see oftentimes with amateurs is that we see that left hip, if we look at it from this angle, I'm coming into contact, and the hip just kind of goes up. So it goes up and toward the ball. I want the hip to go back and up, not forward and up, if that makes sense. Because that's basically what we see. Because when people don't open up their hips, the hips just move forward and up. So from this angle, it would look like this, forward and up. So when that's happening, that's early extension. What we need to happen is we need the hip to go back and then up. So from this angle, we can see it goes back and then up through contact. And that comes from the proper use of the lead leg, getting a good weight shift. There's a great drill on the website. It's called Kick the Clutch. You can actually find it. It's a great one if you're struggling with this hip movement. Highly recommend it. It's a great drill on the website. Also, the compression line course. There's lots of drills in there. So if you're ever looking for a video on a specific subject on the website, we actually have a great search engine. If you're on your desktop, it's very easy to find. All you got to do is go up the upper right-hand corner. You'll see a search box there, and you just search the word clutch, C-L-U-T-C-H, and you'll find that Kick the Clutch drill. If you're on a mobile device, all you got to do is click that little icon in the upper right-hand corner. It's 3 horizontal lines. If you click on that, that'll expand a menu. And if you scroll down that menu at the bottom there, you'll see the search window, and you can search the word clutch. It's a great video. Highly recommend it. And also the compression line course, if you want to work through that, a lot of the stuff that I just talked about there, focusing on that lead hip, getting the body opening up, a lot of stuff in the compression line section, because that's mainly the compression line is all about not bumping the hip out. We need this hip to be moving back and up out of the way, not bumping forward or bumping up and forward. We need it to be moving back and out of the way, back and up. So the compression line is really what that course is all about. And you can go work through that. So just click the instruction tab at the top of the screen there, and then click the Top Speed Golf System, and then click the compression line course to work through the drills. Now, real quickly, for those who aren't familiar with what the compression line is, the compression line is part of the Top Speed Golf System. It's one of the 5 pieces, one of the 5 things that all tour players do. And basically what it is the line that goes up from your lead ankle socket, hip socket to shoulder socket. So we want that to be all in a straight line, and we want that to be slightly angled away from the target. And we want to have our hips open about 45 degrees at contact. So this is at contact. So if I'm coming into contact here, I can kind of show you an example of what a good compression line would look like. I'm coming into contact here. I'm rotating my body open, and you can see my lead ankle, my lead hip, my lead shoulder, all in a straight line there, slightly angled away from the target. That would be a good example of a good compression line. You can go on YouTube, look at many tour players' swings, and you're going to see the exact same thing. If you pause them there right at impact, you're going to be able to draw a line straight up from their ankle, hip, and shoulder. It's going to be all in a nice straight line there. You might see a few that are slightly bumped out with the hip, but none are going to be like this, where they're very bumped out, or you're not going to see any that are like this, very like chopping down at the ball. You might see some where they're more angled away, especially if they're hitting a driver. You might see that a little bit, but for the most part, they're all in that good range there. All right, so Hanif P says, in an effort to create lag at the start of the downswing, and especially when the lead arm is parallel to the ground, the thought I take forward is the butt end of the club will hit the ball. Is that a good approach to create lag with the driver? Really, you're just experimenting with feelings, right? So if you're looking on video and you're seeing that feeling is giving you lag, then sure, yeah. That would be a completely fine approach. Really, it just comes down to what you see on camera. You got to video your swing and see what's going on. So if your feeling that you're having is giving you the results that you want, then who am I to say that that's a bad feeling to have? That feeling may work great for you and not great for someone else. You know, if there was one lag drill that would help every single person or get every single person get lag, then there would just be one drill. We would just have one video, and that's all it would be. But the issue is that everyone's different. Everyone's brain kind of thinks differently and absorbs and thinks about things in different ways. So we have to try and tell you in different ways, basically the same thing in different ways, in order for you to get in the right position. So that's not really one that I've ever heard before, having the butt end hit the ball. But hey, if that connection for you helps you to get lag, then absolutely. You know, typically the feeling that we talk about, and it's one of the first drills in the lag course, is getting this butt end of the club pointing behind the golf ball as long as possible, and then releasing that out in front. You know, that's one that I find that works pretty well. But hey, you know, that one may not make a connection with you. This feeling that you're talking about here may be one that helps you to get into that position that we're talking about. So I don't mind whatever you want to feel to get into the proper position is completely fine. I mean, obviously that's not the reality of what's going on. You're not hitting the ball with the butt end of the club, but it might be a good feeling for you to have to be able to get into that position. So it sounds like it'd be working fine, but again, you just want to look on video to make sure that what you feel is actually the reality. All right, so Paul B says, to get greater iron distance, you decrease loft and get forward shaft lean with your irons. Does this work for hybrids? Yes, it works for hybrids as well. Basically, what you're doing is when you're de-lofting the club. So imagine you were to hit a ball with a sledgehammer, right? Zero loft, right? That's going to be maximum compression on the golf ball. So if I were to take this is a 3-iron. If I were to take this 3-iron and put it where it has no loft on it, I'm going to put more compression into the golf ball. I'm going to transfer more energy into the golf ball. A 3-iron is, you know, the same loft as many hybrids. I think a 3-iron is roughly 21 degrees or something like that, 22 degrees, and that's what hybrids are around that. So yeah, you would hit it. It's the same thing. You still want to de-loft it and to be able to get a little bit more compression on the ball, so that you're able to transfer more energy to the golf ball and get more distance. Yeah, for sure. All right. So Richard H says, hi Q, thanks for help with reverse pivot a couple of weeks ago. Didn't know I was doing it at the top of the power turn until I videotaped and saw it. Next question is uncoiling of the power turn. Does the protraction and retraction of the shoulders mainly drive the upper body rotation with the hands passively dragging behind? If you feel your hands breaking, is that too handsy? So it's really going to start from the ground up. The uncoiling is going to start from the ground up. So you don't want to feel like it's a very top heavy kind of swing. I feel like it's all happening from the ground up. So we want to make sure that we get that good weight shift to our lead side. And once we get that pressure into the ground, we're feeling that pressure into our feet and into our lead foot. We're going to start pushing and rotating our body open. So as our hips start to rotate open, that's going to start getting our rib cage to start opening up. And then our rib cage starting to open up is going to get my shoulders opening up, and that's going to get my arms going and the hands and then the club. We want it to happen in that sequence. Now, those things are all happening a split second apart. Boom, 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 boom. But that's where we want it to start from. We want it to start from the ground up. We don't want to get up to the top of the swing and then just feel the arms just coming out, because one, you're just not going to get very much speed from that. You may be able to get some speed, but you won't be able to get the most amount of speed, the most efficient amount of speed. And then the other thing is you're most likely going to come over the top. If you just start down with the arms coming down, the protraction and retraction of the shoulders, you're probably just going to throw the arms at it, come over the top, or you may just come way too far underneath, or it's just going to be hard to control. So what we want to do is we want to get that downswing started with the lower body from the ground up. I want to make sure I get that weight shift to the lead side. I'm feeling that pressure in my lead foot. Then that's rotating my lower body, and that's getting the upper body going as well. So imagine the best way to kind of think about this and why this is the most efficient way to swing the club is because you're building momentum with your lower body. So if you build momentum with your lower body, there's actually a great video on the website where Clay talks about this. It's the momentum train video. I believe it's in the straight line release course or the compression line course. But if you're interested in checking out that video, just search the word momentum train on the website, or just the word train. You'll probably be able to find it on there with just the word train as well. But basically what it is you are, if you imagine you have a train, right? And then you put another train, that train's going 60 miles per hour. And then you take another train and put it on the roof of that train, and it's also going 60 miles per hour. Then you take another train and you put it on the roof of that train, and it's also going 60 miles per hour. So that train that's on top, the top train there, it's going 60 miles per hour relative to the train below it, but it's going 180 miles per hour relative to the ground, right? So that's what's going on in the swing. If you start this downswing with just the shoulders and the arms coming down, all you have is that top train. All you have is that 60 miles per hour train. But if you get the lower body going, which would be the bottom train, right? And then you get the rib cage going, that would be the middle train. And then you get the arms going behind that. Now you've created momentum, and you're able to get a lot more speed from that. And not to mention, you get more swing mechanics from that. If you don't use your lower body at all, if you just get the shoulders going, you're going to release the club early. You're going to do that, right? You can't stop this club from releasing early. You're going to just flip through contact. So not only are you going to lose speed, but you're also going to release the club early, which is going to make it, one, harder to make solid contact, and two, it's going to add loft to the face. So you're losing a lot of your power from doing that. So you want to make sure that you are getting that proper weight shift to the lead side and building momentum with your lower body. So if you're having trouble doing that, one thing I may ask you to do is go to the Stop Chunking and Topping course. I know that it's not chunking, and you may not be chunking and topping the ball, but that course is all about getting you to load up properly and get that weight shift to the lead side properly. So that'd be maybe a good course for you to go work on to make sure that you're getting that proper sequence down. So highly recommend it. Go check it out. There's also a video, how to start the downswing, where Clay talks about the step drill in that video. So you can just search the word downswing on the website, and you'll be able to find the video. So one, to find the Stop Chunking and Topping course, click the house icon at the top of the page there. That's going to take you to the home page. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website, and you can click the Stop Chunking and Topping course right there. And that's going to help you to get loaded up properly and get you to your lead side properly, so that you're getting that proper sequence down. If you want to find that how to start the downswing video, all you have to do is search the word downswing on the website. If you're on a desktop or a bigger screen, it'll just be in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see the search window there. You can just search the word downswing. It'll be the fourth or fifth video down in the search results. It's called How to Start the Downswing. It's got some yellow lettering in the thumbnail. But Clay talks about the step drill in there. It's a great drill to help you get that proper weight shift and sequencing. And if you're on a mobile device, if you just click the icon in the top right corner, it's 3 horizontal lines there. If you click on that, that'll expand a menu. And if you scroll down at the bottom of that menu, you'll see the search box there. Search the word downswing to find the video I'm talking about. All right. All right, so Paul B says, in Brody's book, Every Shot Counts, he says driver distance is much more important than accuracy. Do you agree? Absolutely. So driver distance, now accuracy is actually more, I think you're kind of misunderstanding a little bit about what he's saying. But basically, the gist of it is that it's much better to be 30 yards further down the fair or down the hole in the rough than it is to be 30 yards back and in the fairway. Basically what we're talking about is if you were to hit it in the fairway every single time and you were 30 yards shorter, I think that would be an easy decision. You would hit it. You would hit your driver. If that was the case, then I would absolutely not hit the ball shorter if I was going to be in the fairway every single time and be 30 yards shorter. It would make golf a little bit easier, maybe. It's still a close decision there. But the reality is that if you hit it shorter, you're not any more accurate than you are if you hit it longer. People think or have this idea that if they hit the ball further, they're going to be much less accurate, and that's why they don't. That's why they don't work on their distance, because they're afraid that they're just going to be more wild. Well, the reality is that you're not. You're just as wild as if you gain distance. You're just as wild as you were before. So that's what it comes down to. Is accuracy is absolutely important. It's just that you're not any less accurate if you hit the ball further. And they actually found that the longer players oftentimes were more accurate. So that's basically what it comes down to. Is if you want to actually, there's no higher correlation in golf to lowering your handicap than gaining distance. There's no higher correlation to lowering your handicap. People who hit the ball further score lower. That's just all there is to it. So if you're looking to improve your game, then I highly recommend that you improve your distance, because that's going to help you to improve your game quite a bit. Now, if you're someone who is slicing every single shot and it's going OB every single time, or you're just having trouble making any kind of contact at all, then you may want to work on maybe the stable fluid spine, or you may want to work on a specific course that we have on the website that's going to help you to get into a better place with the ball. So, for instance, if you're hitting a big old slice every single time, uncontrollable, it's a pull or it's a slice every single time, you probably ought to go and work through our Never Slice Again course first, and then work on, get that to where you're at least getting it around the fairway every time. Or, we're all going to hit a bad shot every now and then. Even the best players in the world are hitting big slices and hooks every now and then. But basically what it comes down to is getting to where it's reasonable. And then once you get to where you're reasonable, then it's absolutely time to get some distance. So highly recommend you go through the 20-minute distance fix if you're looking to get some distance. There's no better course or better there's nothing better out there that I've found that works as well as this. And Clay actually talks about I believe he talks a little bit about that book in the 20-minute distance fix course. If you're interested in that book, it's actually a pretty cool read. I actually have it right here. Every Shot Counts. I'm not getting paid by Mark Brody or anything to mention the book. I just think it's a pretty cool book if you're interested, especially if you're a golf nerd or, like me. You may like that book. It's basically, if you've heard of the strokes gained statistics and things like that, the guy who wrote that book, he's the one that came up with all these advanced analytics and statistics for golf. So it's a pretty cool read. Recommend checking out. Might change your perspective a little bit on what's really important for golf. We've always heard, drive for dough drive for show and putt for dough, right? I've been saying the opposite for so long, but it is the opposite. The guys that are making the most money on tour are the guys that are hitting it the furthest. So, obviously you need to putt well to win, but if you look at the best putters on tour, they're not winning as much as the guys that are hitting it the furthest. So basically, The way that you win is you hit the ball far and you get hot with your putter, and those are the guys that win. So that's typically what happens. The guys like Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, like they're all Brooks Koepka, they all hit it a long way, and when they win, they get hot with their putter. But when they're not hot with the putter, they're still in contention. It's just that they're not hot with the putter. But if you have to be hot with your putter all the time just to have a chance, it's going to be tough. So highly recommend working through the 20-minute distance fix to improve your distance. There's no better course out there for doing it. Basically works on, we've tried and researched a lot of different ways to gain distance. And really the two best ways to get distance are, one, increasing your range of motion and swinging as hard as you can. And that doesn't mean that's what you're going to do out on the course. But when you're speed training, you want to be swinging as hard as you can, and you want to be getting as maximum range of motion as you possibly can, trying to get as much speed as possible. So as you do that, your body will conform more to it. It'll get more comfortable with it, and your playing speed will go up as a result of that. So basically, just to tell you, I've done some of this speed training, or I've actually gone through all of it. But basically, I started out about 108, 110, took 10 swings. That was my average. They were all between 108 and 110. Went through the training, increased my range of motion, swung as hard as I could. Also worked on my sequencing, which would include loading up and getting a good weight shift to the lead side, getting some lag, and then releasing that lag better. Worked on all of those things, and got my club head speed, my max club head speed. This is 100% effort. This is not a fairway finder swing, folks. This is a 100% effort, swinging all out of my shoes. I got up to 124 miles per hour. That was my fastest. But my playing speed went up to 117, 118. So that was the swing that I was comfortable with out on the course. That was my fairway finder swing, for example. That would be the swing that I'm going out there that I'm comfortable. I'm playing with that speed, 117, 118. So roughly, 8 to 10 miles per hour more than what I was swinging before. And that's a good chunk of yardage. That's 25 yards or so of distance. So makes a big difference when you're able to basically hit 2 or 3 clubs less into a green. So imagine if you were hitting an 8-iron into the green normally, and now you're hitting a wedge into the green. Makes a big difference. So I don't know about you, but I'm going to be hitting my 50-degree wedge a lot closer than my 8-iron most of the time. We're talking 160 yards versus 125 yards or 130 yards. So makes a big difference there. So highly recommend checking out the course if you're interested in getting some more distance. If you're a middle handicapper, I would say if you're definitely a 15 handicapper below, there's no reason why you shouldn't be trying to gain more distance. Because if you're a 15 handicapper below, what that likely means is that you have some control over the golf ball and you're not hitting it out of bounds every time. Now, if you're above that, I'm guessing you probably have a little bit of issue controlling your ball flight. You're probably hitting some big slices, some big hooks, not making very solid contact. And if that's the case, then you may need to work through some courses to improve that. But if you're a 15 handicap or below, I would say you're probably the best bet for you to gain some club head speed, or for you to improve that handicap and to get to where you're in single digits, would be to gain some distance for sure. So highly recommend that course. If you're interested in doing the 20-minute distance fix course, go to the top of the screen there and click the instruction tab, and then click 20-minute distance fix and get started there. It's a 3-week program. Highly recommend it if you're looking to gain some distance and improve your game. All right, so Richard G says, when I hit the ball a little heavy, when I adjust, then I hit thin. What causes that? So, Richard, you most likely have an early release. And what that means is you're coming into contact and you're releasing this club at the golf ball, meaning that you don't probably have a lot of forward shaft lean. You're coming in and this club is kind of bisecting your arms here about at the golf ball, or maybe slightly after the golf ball. Ideally, what you would have is you'd want that release to be out in front of contact about 45 degrees. And that's the straight line release course on the website. So you want to be coming into contact and having that club releasing about 45 degrees out front. This is where the club is bisecting the arm. So this is what you see with tour players typically. They're coming in. Here's the contact point. We got some forward shaft lean. We haven't released the club yet. You can see the club is in line basically with my lead forearm or even a little bit outside of it. And then after contact, I'm releasing that club. And you can see this is where the club is bisecting my forearms about 45 degrees out in front. So what happens is that if you have that early release, you're coming into contact, that club is bisecting the arms about at the golf ball or very quickly after the golf ball. Then what's happening is this club is coming in very, very shallow with the turf. It's coming in very, very level. So basically, you either have to have a perfect lie where the ball is sitting up on the grass like it's on a tee, and you can kind of come in and scoop the ball and get the ball higher on the face because it's able to go through the grass. Or if you're on a lie that is a kind of tightly mown, it's kind of a tight lie, maybe a hard pan, maybe your ball's in a divot or something like that. If you release the club early, you basically, your best shot is going to be a thin shot. That's really your best chance, is just to kind of pick it off the turf and hit kind of that thin shot. So if you're coming in before, you're releasing the club early and you're hitting chunks, all that means is that the club is releasing early and then you're coming down, you're hitting the ground a little bit before the golf ball, and it's coming in very, very level. Whereas if you adjust to try to get that ball first contact, what most likely is happening is you're kind of just sliding forward and you're just moving that low point forward, but the only way you can hit the ball is if you come in and hit it thin. So what you want to do is most likely work through the straight line release course to get some more forward shaft lean in your swing. But what you need to do first is you need to make sure that you're nailing the 4 pieces of the Top Speed Golf system that are before the straight line release. Because if you're not, then you're basically trying to run before you can walk, right? You're just not ready for that point yet. So what you need to do is make sure that you have a stable fluid spine. If you are, if you're not nailing your spine angles and you don't have a stable spine, it's going to be really, really tough for you to get in a good position there at contact to be able to make that. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the stable fluid spine course, we want to be about 6 to 8 degrees angled away at address. Then as we go to the top of the swing, we want to kind of remain that overall angle of our body. So what that means is I don't want to be going like this where I'm leaning toward the target. And I don't want to be doing this where I'm leaning really far away. I want to remain nice and stable. So I'm 6 to 8 degrees angled away here at address. And that's from basically my shirt buttons here down to my belt buckle, center of my hips, center of my shoulders. And then as I go up to the top, I want to see that overall angle be about the same. So you can see here, this is the overall angle of my body here at the top of the swing. You can see that's roughly about 6 to 8 degrees. And then as I come into contact, I want that angle to increase. So my body is opening up and I'm coming into contact and I'm basically in about a 20-degree angle here. That's what you're going to see at contact if you look at the center of the shoulders and the center of the hips. And that's coming from getting that body moving forward. And it's also coming from getting the body opening up as you're coming into contact. So you want to make sure that your stable fluid spine is good before you're working through the next piece, which would be your power turn. The power turn is getting that big shoulder turn and then getting that good follow through all the way into the full finish. So I know that may not seem like it's related to getting that release, but it absolutely is, because if you are not getting a good shoulder turn, meaning let's say I'm just going right here, I'm not really turning my shoulders very much, I'm not getting that good at least 90 degree shoulder turn, then what happens is that I'm typically going to rush this downswing or I'm just going to throw my arms at it. So if you have a good shoulder turn, now you're going to have a lot more space and time to accelerate the club and to sequence properly. And that's going to allow you to make it a lot easier to get that club to release out in front. So you have to make sure that you get a good shoulder turn as well. And then the next piece after that is lag. We want to make sure that we're getting some lag in the downswing. So we're going up to the top here. We have this angle at the top. And then we want to be sharpening that angle as we're coming down. So that angle I'm talking about is between the lead arm and the shaft there. So if you aren't tightening that angle, and let's say you have this angle at the top and then you're starting to release that from the very beginning, you're casting the club a little bit, you're not sharpening that angle, then it's going to be near impossible to get this club to release out in front. If I'm already releasing it right here,
basically I'm going to end up to contact right here. I need to get some lag so that I can release that out in front. So that's very, very important there. You have to make sure that you're getting some lag in the beginning of the downswing there. Very, very important. And then lastly, you want to make sure the compression line, you want to make sure that you're not bumping your hip out. So the compression line is the line that goes up from your lead ankle, hip, and shoulder. And that's at contact, and we want that to be all in a straight line. We want that to be slightly angled away from the target with the body opening up here about 45 degrees. So if you look at it from this angle, I'm coming into contact, my hips are open about 45 degrees there. So if you are bumped out, meaning you're coming into contact like this, I'm bumped out with my hips and I'm not rotating, then it's going to be really, really difficult to release that club out in front. You're going to release, if your hips are coming in pretty square to the ball and you're bumping them out at contact, then you're going to typically release that club at contact because your body has stalled out and it's the sequence is just going to happen sooner. So if you imagine if I take this club and I start my arm and then I stop it suddenly, so I go like that, my club is going to want to keep going due to the momentum. So that's what's happening in the golf swing as well. If we in the downswing, if we stall our hips out, that accelerates the next piece, and then when that decelerates, that accelerates the next piece until it goes through all the way to the club. We want that to happen, but we want that to happen out here, not here. So we want those hips to be kind of stalling out in this area, not right here at impact with the hips square to the ball. So we need to get the hips continue to rotate open so that we can release this club out in front and get forward shaft lean. So before you go through the straight line release, you need to make sure that you're getting those first pieces, those first four pieces of the system correct. Otherwise, you're just going to have a really tough time getting anywhere with that. And if you want to work through the Top Speed Golf system, all you got to do is click the instruction tab at the top of the screen there. That'll expand the menu, and then click the Top Speed Golf system and get familiar with what all those are. If you haven't gone through the system yet or not familiar with what it is, I would go in and just watch a few videos of each so that you understand exactly what it is. I kind of give you just a little crash course of what the Top Speed Golf system is, but go in and get an understanding of what those are. Video your swing from face on and down the line. Really, really important to video your swing. You can't just guess what you're doing or base it on feel, because we know, and you've probably heard, that feel is not real. Just because you feel like you're doing something, you may feel like you're opening up your body and you look like this at contact, but the reality is that you might be like that. So you gotta film your swing. I can tell you the first time that I videoed my swing, it was a wake-up call. I was like, whoa, I didn't know I was doing that. It was like, no wonder I'm having some issues and things like that. So you gotta video your swing. It's one of the best training aids out there is a video camera. People ask me all the time, what's the best training aid? It's your phone. It's the video. A lot of the phones these days have a slow motion camera on them that you can break it down and see everything on there. So a lot of you already have a really great training aid in your pocket. It's definitely going to be the best one that you can get for sure. All right, so Thomas O says, speaking of the driver, yesterday I went to the range and teed the ball 3/4 above the driver and played the ball more towards the left foot. It felt a bit weird, but got the distance and height Clay talked about in his video. Can you give me your take on driver setup? So I believe Thomas is talking about the video, the Distance Killers video. And I talked about my take in the video. And basically, what that's helping you to do is it's helping you to hit up on the golf ball. And that's going to give you a little bit more distance. What it can also do is it can give you a little bit more time to square up the club face. So if you're someone who's kind of blocking the ball out to the right or hitting some big old slices out to the right as a right-handed golfer, if you're playing that ball further back in your stance, you don't have as much time to square up the club face. Whereas if you have it a little bit further up in your stance, now you've got a little bit more time to get that face squared up as you're coming in to help you to not hit that slice. So that's one way it can help you, and it's also going to help you to hit up on the golf ball. So if you imagine if you have it back in your stance, for a driver, that might be, in this area, a few inches inside the lead foot there. If you're hitting down on the ball a little bit, what's happening is that you're putting spin on it. So when you put spin on the ball, it's not going to go as far and it's not going to roll out as much. So the other thing that happens is that when you hit down on it, usually de-lofts it, and that lower launch is going to make it so that you don't hit it as far either. So what you want to do is play it up in your stance a little bit so that you get the higher launch, so that you're hitting up on it. You get the higher launch, you get lower spin, and it's going to go further when you do that. And not to mention, it may give you a little bit more time to square up the face. So I talk about that in the video that Thomas is talking about. I believe he's talking about the one that was released on the YouTube channel. But yeah, that's definitely a good one. And one thing that I mentioned in that video is how a lot of people, when they tell me about where they tee up their driver, they always reference the foot. So it's always in reference to the lead foot. So let me angle this down a little bit so you can see more of what I'm talking about. So what they're doing is referencing that lead foot. Now, if you reference that lead foot, that could be a good spot for most people. But sometimes, let's say you got a stance that's kind of like this. It's not a real wide stance. It's basically, just shoulder width apart, basically. Well, if I play that ball on the inside of my foot, that might be too far back in my stance. I might hit down on the golf ball a little bit, and it's going to make it difficult for me to get that high launch and low spin. So what you want to do, what I always say, is play the ball on the outside of your lead shoulder. That's going to give you the good spot. So that way, if you have a really, really wide stance, right? So if I had like a Brooks Koepka type driver stance here, and I played that ball off the inside of my foot, man, it's going to be hard for me to get to that ball. It's so far forward in my stance. So playing it straight down from the shoulder puts it from the lead shoulder. That puts it in a spot to where my club can bottom out and then work back up into the golf ball. Because typically your club is going to be bottoming out, reaching its low point. So the club comes down, reaches a low point, and then works back up. Typically, that's going to be happening about in the armpit area of the club. So if you play it on the lead shoulder, that club will then bottom out and then work up into the golf ball a little bit. So that's why I say that it's in reference to the upper body, because then you can have a narrow stance, you can have a super sumo stance here, wide stance, and that ball position doesn't change because your upper body is still going to be in the same position there. So recommend check out that video on YouTube if you want to go check it out. But basically, that's going to allow you to get in a better position there, so that you can hit higher launching, lower spinning drives that go further. All right. Oh, and the other thing that you talked about was the 3/4 above. So I don't have a driver in here, but I can kind of show you on this 3-iron. Basically, you've always heard, and I've said this many times, and it doesn't mean that it's not a bad place, but basically, you want to have about half of the equator lined up with the top of the club face when you're hitting your driver, and that can be a completely fine place to play it. But if you're really wanting to get that high launch and lower spinning drive, you can place it about 3/4 of the ball above, and that will help you have a little bit more space to get the club to work up into the golf ball and maybe get a little bit higher contact point as well, so that you can get that higher launching, lower spinning drive. So give it a try. Half of the ball above the equator still might be a good place for you. But I personally like to get that when I'm trying to really bomb one and get one out there, get that really high launch and low spin drive. I like to play it about 3/4 above the ball. I know Clay does too. So if you're looking to do that, then I highly recommend maybe trying out teeing it up just a little bit higher and letting the club work up into the golf ball. All right, so we got about 15 minutes left. Tom, I see he's got a question here, but if you got any more questions, let me know, and go ahead and post them on here. I have to go right at 10 a.m., so I won't be able to stay on if you post a question like at 9:59 or something like that. So make sure you get your questions on there so that you're able to get them answered. So Tom D says, Q, in the top speed lag section, Clay advised that you look on the camera from face on. The minimum amount of lag should measure 65 degrees at left arm parallel. If that is the minimum, what would be ideal? I assume it would be more than 65 degrees. Your thoughts? Thanks. So basically, the tour average of what we found was about 55 degrees. Basically, if you're anywhere in the range of 30 degrees to 70 degrees, I would say that that's pretty good. And what Tom is talking about here is we're going up to the top. We've got this angle between the lead arm and the shaft at the top. And as we're coming down, we want to see that angle get down to roughly about 65 at minimum. But the tour average is going to be about 55 degrees. And that's this angle right here between the lead arm and the shaft. Now, some things to understand about lag is where that angle is coming from. Because really, you can only bend your wrist, do this thumbs up position, about 20 degrees. So if I were to hold this club straight up and down here and go thumbs up as much as I possibly can, and this is without doing this with my wrist, without really cupping my wrist. This is keeping a neutral wrist and going thumbs up as much as I can only create about a 20-degree angle or a 70-degree angle there between my lead arm and the shaft. So where that lag comes from is partially from that and partially from what we call shallowing out the club. So if you see right here, that this is shallowing out the club, getting the butt into the club to point more at the golf ball or a little bit outside the golf ball. You can see if I have this at that 20-degree angle and now I shallow it, now look, that angle now looks sharper, right? So now I'm in this kind of position. I'm at a sharper angle. The other thing that creates that sharp angle is the momentum of the club. So if I have this club head going in that direction in the backswing, and then I switch directions, now that momentum of the club is sharpening up that angle. So watch, if I do my thumbs up as much as possible, which is about 20 degrees, and I have the shallowing of the club, and I add in the momentum, look how tight I can get this angle. See how tight that is as I'm coming down? So if it basically comes down to how well you can use all of those pieces. So 65 would be a good place to get into if you can get into it. 55 is the tour average. If you can get a little bit more, then great. If not, it's no big deal. The main thing is that you want to make sure that you're getting that angle sharper in the downswing. Even if you're in the 70 degree range, that's fine. The main thing is you want to get that angle sharpening up in the downswing, because if it's going from here and then getting bigger from the very beginning, you're going to tend to release that club early. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to get some forward shaft lean and compression, and speed on the ball. But there's no, I wouldn't say that there's like an optimum angle. The tour average, like I said, is 55. You're going to see all kinds of players with different lag angles. Adam Scott he's probably around 65 degrees, doesn't have a ton of lag. You look at JB Holmes, not a ton of lag there. Brooks Koepka has a ton of lag. He's like at 35, 40 degrees, somewhere in there. Tiger has a pretty good amount of lag there. You just got to look at, it's different for everybody. Some players are going to have more than others. But yeah, I would say there's no optimum there. I just try to get as much as you can that helps you play the best. All right. So Scott C says, what causes a pull shot? Good question. So a pull, I like to break this down into baseball terms. I think most people are familiar with that. So if you're a right-handed golfer, I want you to imagine I'm hitting out this way. I'm hitting toward the outlet here, and I'm standing at home plate on a baseball diamond. So I got first base out over here. I got third base over here, and the pitcher's mound and the second base is straight in front of me. Well, a pull shot is caused by my club face, which is the direction the face is pointing. My face angle is pointing left of the target, right? So toward third base. And then my club path, which is the direction the club head is moving through contact, is also moving in that direction. So my face and my path are basically in the same direction. That's what causes a pull. So basically I'm coming down and my path is going to the left and my face is closed in line with that path to the left. So the way to fix that is the best way to fix anything in golf is really to exaggerate the opposite. So what would be the opposite of this? A pull. The opposite would be to feel like you're swinging out to first base and that the club face is pointed out toward first base. That's what the fix would be. So There's actually a great course on the website. It's called the Never Slice Again course. I know that you're not slicing, but a pull and a slice are basically a product of the same issue, and that is a club path that's moving to the left. The only difference between a slice and a pull is that on a slice, your face is open to the club path, meaning that instead of my face also being pointed toward third base, now my face is pointed to the right of third base. So it's pointed toward second base. Maybe my face is square at contact, pointed toward the second base, toward second base for the pitcher, but my path is still moving to the left. So that's going to make that ball start pretty straight and then curve way to the right and have that slice. So really it's this product of the same issue, and that course is all about getting you to swing more from the inside. It's about getting you to swing more toward first base, which is going to help you. So the best way to fix any issue is to exaggerate the opposite, and then once you're doing that, then all you have to do is ease off of that to get to where you want to be. So if you're trying to fix a pull shot, learn to hit a push, right? And then ease off of that push to get it to straighten out into a straight shot. So highly recommend that Never Slice Again course. If you want to check that out, go to the house icon at the top of the page, click that house icon. If you scroll down, that'll take you to the home page. And then once you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses on the website, 20 plus courses on the website, and you'll be able to select the Never Slice Again course from there. All right, we got 7 or so minutes left. So go ahead and post your question if you got it. If not, we will wrap it up here soon. And everybody will have a good weekend. So like I said, I got to go right at 10 a.m. So if you got a question, go ahead and post it in there as soon as you can. If you want to get it answered. If you post it at 9:58 or 9:59, you may not have time to answer it. So if you're just joining us, I'm just waiting for a question to be asked. Go ahead and post your question if you got it, and then we'll get it answered. So like I said, we got about 5 or so minutes left. In the meantime here, I'll just be checking my email. All right, so David W. says, advice to hit off of tight lies. So if you're someone who is releasing the club early, it's going to be difficult to hit off tight lies, and that's probably why you're having trouble with that. So if you're on a really tight lie and you want to ensure that you get ball first contact, first what I'd recommend doing is maybe taking an extra club. So let's say maybe you're hitting a 9-iron, maybe hit an 8-iron instead, and then choke up on the club a little bit. And what that will do is that will give you a little bit more control of the club. And then what I would do is I just play the ball a little bit back of where you normally would. So typically, you're going to be playing the ball a little bit ahead of the middle of your stance. So that's going to be straight down from the lead ear, typically, is where you're going to see that. So I would play the ball more in the middle of your stance when hitting off of a tight lie, if you're an early releaser, which I imagine if you are, that's why you're asking the question. Because if you release the club out in front, a tight lie wouldn't be any issue for you. It would be just hit it like you would a normal shot. So, but if you are an early releaser to the club, basically you would kind of play it. This is how I play fairway bunker shots. It's just to ensure that I make ball first contact. And that's what's really, really important on these shots. Now, you may thin it a little bit, and it may have a little bit more spin on it, but that's part of the battle there. So if you're someone who's hitting off a thin lie, take an extra club, choke up on the club, give yourself a little bit more control, then play the ball roughly about in the middle of your stance. and make sure you get that good weight shift to your lead side, and you just take your normal swing as you normally would. Now, if you want to improve your ability to hit off of tight lies with the normal kind of swing, then I would recommend working on getting some forward shaft lean at contact. So basically what's going on with your swing, if you're having trouble hitting off of tight lies, is that you're releasing the club early. So when I release the club early, this club is going to be coming in with no forward shaft lean. So you can see where my contact point is on the face when I have no forward shaft lean. If I lean this shaft forward, now you can see that contact point is higher on the face. And it went from the second or third groove to basically the fifth or sixth groove. I've got it much higher on the face there, which is going to allow me to get some good contact point on the face there. So work on would be the straight line release course or the move. But again, as I alluded to earlier, you have to make sure you have the other piece of the top speed golf system down first. So you have to have a stable fluid spine. You have to have a good power turn. You have to have some good lag in the swing. You have to have your compression line in order before you can work on this straight line. Otherwise, you're just not. You're basically gonna be wasting your time, because it's gonna be basically impossible for you to get that club to release out in front if you're not nailing those pieces first. So the top speed golf system is in an order for a reason. You need to be able to nail those pieces first before you move on to the next piece. So highly recommend you work through those pieces. If you're not nailing them, look at your swing on video, see what's going on there. Really, really important. I can't emphasize this enough. You have to video. If you're serious about getting better and improving your technique, you have to video your swing. I know it may not be fun to look at. I don't like looking at my swing on video. I oftentimes don't like to see what it looks like, but it's the only way to improve what you're doing. You have to look at it on video. So use an app like V1 Golf, video your swing. You have to do it if you're serious about if you're serious about improving your technique. So take the tips there to the course that I just talked about. Basically, it's just a fairway bunker. You just do the same thing on a tight lie, and see if that helps you. And if you want to put in the work to really improve your game to get some forward shaft lean, then work through the straight line release and the move course. You can do them kind of simultaneously, or you need to make sure that you have completed and you're good to go on the first 4 pieces of the top speed golf system. And if you want help with that, if you're not sure, hey, I don't know if I'm nailing the pieces or not, I don't know anything about this, and you don't want to watch all the videos and you want help from an instructor, we do offer unlimited swing reviews as an additional service to our All Access members. So if you're not familiar with what that is and want to learn more about it, go ahead and click the Get Review tab at the top of the screen there. Basically, the way it works is you send me a video of your swing, and I look at your swing and tell you exactly what you need to get better. We'll communicate, figure out what your goals are and what you're trying to do, and we'll get you to where you're on the right track and where you want to go. So I would recommend going there. If you see a spot, grab that spot. I don't always have spots available. In fact, for the last couple months, I haven't had hardly any spots available. So if you'd like to join my waiting list, you want to make sure that you do that. If you'd like to work with me, make sure that you join my waiting list, because when I open up spots, I send an email out to the waiting list first. And those are the people that get kind of first dibs on it. So make sure that you join that waiting list if you'd like to sign up for the Element Swing Reviews, because the last few times I sent email out to the waiting list, I sold out to the waiting list, and I didn't even send it out to the rest of the list. So I recommend that you join the waiting list if you're interested in doing Element Swing Reviews. Robin also has a waiting list, I believe, as well. So if you want to work with Robin, you could join his waiting list too. So Aaron R says, I took your recommendation and got fitted for irons at Club Champion. Do you have any recommendations on how to break the clubs in? Just playing with them. Really, that's all I would do, is just go out and practice and play with them. That's how you can break them in. So Aaron R is talking about, if you're not familiar with what Club Champion is, I have no affiliation with Club Champion. I've just gone there a couple times for fittings, and I think that they do a great job. But basically, they're going to get you on a TrackMan, and they're going to have you hit your current clubs, and they're going to try to show you that, hey, new clubs are going to be better for you. So highly recommend, check them out if you're interested in getting new clubs, or if you think that you can do better with new clubs. I mean, a lot of times a lesson or improving your technique, clubs aren't going to fix your golf swing, but they can help things quite a bit if you're, in some areas. If you've never been fitted before, it can definitely make a big difference. If you're someone who's been fitted before, it may not make a huge difference, but definitely, if you're in the market, hey, you got the money to be able to get some new clubs if you want some. I mean, I always like getting new clubs, even if I don't need them, so I don't have anything against that. But yeah, check out Club Champion if you're interested. Like I said, I have no affiliation with them. They're located in major cities all over the country. If you would like to check it out. So thanks everybody for joining me today. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. And I will talk to you on Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern time on Monday. Everybody have a good one. And I'll talk to you next time.